Okay. So we're going to take a look at engineering right-of-way permits today, right? Is that what we're all looking at?
Yep.
Very good. So I'm going to show you Clayton, Missouri. They do a fair amount of right-of-way permits, so I thought I'd just kind of walk you through what they have. And we'll go back and forth between CitizenServe and the portal. And so the CitizenServe, when you see the logo up here, that means we're in CitizenServe, which is the internal application that you guys would use. When I go to the portal, you'll see their Clayton, Missouri's logo here on the top right. So I might jump around back and forth between the two, but that's where you'll see that. So let's start on the portal, and we'll apply for a right-of-way permit online, and then we'll jump back into CitizenServe and kind of go through the review process and the issuing process. So I'm just going to go to apply online, and I'm going to log in. Maybe I'll log in. Let's try this again. Okay. And then it says lists our application type. So these are just all of the different permit types. So these would be whatever your permits are. You can customize this list. These are just theirs. I'll select right-of-way. And once I select right-of-way, then I see the subtype. And again, these will be whatever your subtypes are. We look at your permit applications to kind of figure out what that might be. And this field is used for routing too. So this lets us route it to different departments. I'll select excavation for now. Let's say we're doing, I don't know, some sidewalk repair. I don't know. And we'll put in an address or parcel number. I'll put in this one. We'll hit find address. That searches your parcel database. And if it finds a match, it just pulls it in. It'll show the address, the parcel number, and the owner's name. If it found more than one matching properties, it would list them. If it didn't find any matches, you have the option of letting them apply anyways with their address or forcing them to enter a valid address. Once we've got our address information, everything from this point down is essentially the permit application. This is all customizable. You can add and remove things. They put text at the very beginning that kind of talks about what the fees are and what they're going to need to have. Some cities do this, some don't. It just depends on what makes the most sense to you. So I'll start filling out this form. Let's say we're going to use, I don't know, ABC Construction, and I don't know, someone else. And who's the name of the contact for this project? I'm registered or I'm logged in as Acme Construction, so I already see me. I'll just select my name. And we're doing our work on the street. Activity information, let's say it's sidewalk closure. So these fields are basically everything that came off of Clayton's right-of-way permit application. When we work on your setup, we get all your paper applications and we set up the permit based on what you already have, and then we work with you to decide what else do we want to change and things like that. Do we want to make things drop downs? Do we want to have more fields, more information that you're not already tracking, things like that? I'll select no. Let me select yes here. So one of the things that you can do with these fields is based on the user's response, you can show additional information. So if I say no, we're not proposing any new facilities, all those fields are hidden. So this lets you kind of build a dynamic application where they don't have to see absolutely everything on the form, they just need to see the things that apply to what they're doing. I'm going to change this back to no, and I don't know. You can make these fields required or not. If they're required, they get a little red line. Let's see if I can find one. These are all required. They have a red line. So you can determine which fields you want to be required. 150 feet. I'm going to start next week, and I hope to be finished in 10 days. They can also attach plans. So if they've got traffic control, site plans, anything like that, they can attach all these documents here. So I'm going to attach a site plan. Let's see if I have one. We'll use this one. And they also want certificate of insurance. I'll attach one of those. I think that's a certificate of insurance. And then just a generic text here about how the application process. Most people will put like I agree to all terms and make them check a box or sign their name. They can save this for later, so if they haven't finished the application, they can save it for later and come back to it. Or once they're done filling it out, they can just click submit. So I'll hit submit, and that's going to save my application. And then I get an email with my application, and if there's fees due at this point, it takes me to a page where I can make an online payment. So the fees, you have some different options with. You can collect all the permit fees up front, you can collect just application fees up front and get the rest later, or you can get no fees up front and get it once you've done your review. So just depending on your process and how you want to handle it, that's how the fee part works. So that was the online application. Did that make sense? Do you guys have any questions on that part?
No, this is all through the portal, right?
This is all through the portal. So now I'm going to jump into CitizenServe and we'll see how does that review process work.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
In that portal, it was asking for a address.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that if you put the address in, it searches our land database for that information. But currently,
right.
our land database is not a database that we have here. It's an online database that we share with the county. How does it link the two?
Julie, we
so you have a few
integrating, right?
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. You have a couple of options. You can integrate, so it's a direct link. That's the easiest way to go. Or you can get a download of the county's data, and we'll upload it for you on a periodic basis. Some people do it quarterly, some do it monthly. But an integration is the best way to go because then it's live, and once it's done, you never have to think about it again.
Agreed. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm back in CitizenServe now, and let me refresh my page. So once that application comes in, it's going to get routed to someone to start the review process. So in Clayton, it goes to Deneen, and let me see if I can find it. Deneen's got a lot of applications, but here it is. So it comes in as an initial review. I'm just going to click this link, and that opens up the project file. So I've done a few things here. It's pulled in a picture, a Google Street View photo. It's assigned it a file number. It's also created this review route. And let me just show you the reviews quickly. I'm just going to click this so we can see the list. So this is a pretty basic review. It's going to go over to Deneen. Deneen does an initial review. I can tell that it's been assigned to Deneen because there's a due date but no completion date. And then once Deneen's done, it's going to go off to Spencer. So you can have as many different review tasks in here as you want. If you're sending it to fire, if they have to look at it, or police, or planning, or whoever has to look at it, each department or person can have an individual review route. And it automatically gets sent to them once the steps that are required to be completed are completed. So let's go back in here. And I want to let's say I'm doing my initial review. Typically what they do is they pull up the application. So to do that, you click the ... icon next to the permit number. It's assigned an application number, just ROW for right-of-way. You can make that whatever you want in the current year plus a sequential. You can also look at it on a map, and you can look at different zones and things like that. So we'll take a look at that. Let's go back here. So let's load to the permit page. I can kind of go back and forth between the form. So this is essentially the application that we saw that they filled out, and kind of look for missing information. I'm going to go back to my review tab and click the book icon. The book icon is common comments. It's essentially a checklist. So what I'm doing now is the initial review. I'm not really checking it for anything, in depth. I'm just making sure that we have a complete application and we're ready to have a planner take a look at it. So if I click the book, it kind of gives me my checklist. Okay, they need to pay some fees, they need to upload their site plans, and they need to give us proof of workers' comp. So you can go back and forth and take a look at this and go, okay, let's see if they paid anything. No, they didn't pay their fees. They did upload a site plan, and they uploaded their certificate of insurance. So maybe we're just going to say you didn't pay your application fees. Maybe we saw something else in there that we also wanted to tell them about. I can hit add comment to add a standard comment here. and I'll save that. Once I save those, they both show up under my review comments, and now I can send them an email that has this information. So I'm going to come over here and click the email icon, and I will select them the incomplete application notice. So these templates are just basic templates. We have a lot of standard ones that we set up in the beginning, but if you have certain things that you're emailing frequently, we can set up custom emails as well. And I'm going to hit the ... over here to select my recipient. I'll send it to our applicant. And normally I would just hit preview, or normally I would just hit send and send off the email, but I'm going to hit preview just so you can see what it looks like. So it's just pretty generic. It's got the name, the application, and those 2 comments that I selected. So I can hit send to send it off. Now you can make these emails manual, like I just did, where the user decides when to send the email and what email they want to send, and they can look at it beforehand. Or you can make them automatic based on once you complete the task. So different cities do it different ways. Just some people do a hybrid, like they send some templates automatically and some they do manually. It just kind of depends on how you want to review that information. So the contractor gets the email, they go back online and they make their payments, add their information, whatever we want to do next. I'm going to go ahead and complete this just so we can move along in the review process. So I'll hit completion date and click save. And so that moves it on to our next reviewer to sign, but the process of completing this is what made this task due and is sent an email to Spencer to do his plan review. So let's go into Spencer and we'll do the actual review. So it shows up again on my tasks. Here it is. And I'll click the plan review and pull the task. Now Spencer's going to do a little bit more. He's going to actually look at the plan documents, mark them up, add comments, and send those review comments. So to look at our plans and mark them up, I'm going to click the markup tool icon here. And this will list all of the plans that were attached. So if they attach multiple site plans, you could see all of them here, and you just click the ones that you want to mark up. So I'll start with this one. And it's going to pull up the document in the markup tool where we can add comments and draw lines and do various things with it. So here's the plan. If you want to have, you can put stamps on them. So if you do like a received stamp, you can add a received stamp. So I'm just going to create a stamp, and we'll call it received. I want it in all caps. And I want to add a date stamp and my name. Once I save this stamp, it saves under my page, so I don't have to add the stamp. I don't have to create the stamp again. It'll just be there. I can add it to anything. So I'll have the stamp, and in the markup tool, you can do various things. You can zoom in and out. By default, it sizes it to fit your monitor, but if you want it bigger, you can just push the zoom up or zoom down. This is kind of an interesting one because it looks like they just took old plans and kind of highlighted and scanned them. So some people put things on napkins. However you get it, you can still mark it up as long as it gets electronically created. So in the markup tool, we can measure things. So I'm going to calibrate my document, and then we'll do some measurements. So let's see. Normally they have this line equals an inch or whatever, but they don't have it on here. So I'm just going to make one up. Let's just say that this is, I don't know, 5 feet. So I'll say it's 5 feet between those lines. Once I calibrate it, now I can measure different things. So I can say, okay, well, what's the distance between here and here? And it is 4 feet 10 inches. I can also measure areas. So if I want to measure an area, I grab the area tool, and I can just say, okay, let's just kind of see what the whole length of this sidewalk or the area of the sidewalk is. It's 196 square feet. You can also add lines and annotations. So let's just say we have a question about something. I'm going to grab the arrow and draw an arrow over here. Maybe I want to make my arrow bigger so they see it. And I'm going to add some comments. So in the book, similar to our intake, we had a list of standard comments. You can also have standard comments for your individual reviews. So I'll click the book. And here's just all the default these are all of the different types of reviews, but I can filter and say, oh, I just want to see my plan review. So this is showing me things about the right-of-way comments. So I can pull some standards, and you can have, like, if you want to fill in the blank thing, you can put question marks, or they put XXXs, so you can add text here. So you can check off as many of these as you want. And you can have a status for your comments. This is optional. If you don't use this, then the field is just hidden. So you can say, okay, this is just a review comment. Some people will have options in here like resubmittal required, comment only, a condition for construction, things like that. And you can also use the add comment button if you want to add a non-standard. And I'll save that. And you can just add as many different comments as you want. If you want to draw another arrow and add some more things, you can. You can name your comment. So let's say this is, I don't know, setbacks. Let's call it that. And I'll add a few more comments to that by clicking the book. Let's grab a few of these. And then once you're done adding all your comments, you click Save here. And that's going to save the comments, and they're separate from the actual document. They're not, you still have the original document and its layout, and you can view the document by itself, or you can view it with the comments. I'll hit close here, and that pulls in all of my comments on my review activity. So you can see these comments in two places. If you just want to look at a quick list of comments, you go to the review activity. If you want to see the comments on the plans, you go into the markup where you can see all of that. So I'm going to send the contractor a plan review comment. So again, I'm just going to complete it, and I'm going to hit send email. And this time I'm going to send plan review comments. We'll select a recipient, and I'll hit preview so you can see it. Normally you just hit send. But basically that just pulled in all of the comments that I marked off. I'll hit send. Now the contractor can also see these comments online. He's going to get an email with your comments, but he can also go to the portal and take a look at them. So let me log back in. I'll view my requests. And there it is. So if I look under reviews, I'll see all the reviewers, and if they have comments, I'll see this link, and I can click it to just see those comments. I can also, if I go to the Documents tab and there's comments on a specific document, I can see the comments here, and this lets me look at the plan with your comments on it. So here's the plan. They can click an item to see, oh, well, what are the comments for this arrow? And it'll just list those comments. So what are the comments for that? It'll just list that. Or they can come in here and see the whole thing. So this lets them kind of view it in a markup manner where they see the items and the comments. They can't change anything here, like I can't drag this or do anything with it like I can the other one, but I can see all the comments that were put in there. Does that review part make sense?
Yeah. The only thing in our engineering services, we have a outside contract reviewer. We don't do anything in-house.
Okay, so if you wanted to have them, I mean, I don't know if they have a system that they already use, but they could log into CitizenServe from any location and do the same thing so that you could see the comments if you wanted to.
Okay. And also, so let's say, so once you were done with your markup, could you have forwarded on to somebody else within the system?
Definitely. So if we had, typically we set up, this is a pretty simple review. I'll have to go back in again. Every time I log off, it logs me off in both places. Let me go pull it up. This is a really simple review. We just had 2 people in Public Works, but you can have different reviewers. So if you had an outside agency, they could just be listed in here. So they would get the notification just like an internal person. if you sent it off to fire as well or to public works, they would just be another line, another review task. So you can send it to as many different people as you need.
Okay.
And if they do the review, but then you guys issue the permit, then typically, let's say this would be, you know, your outside agency, and once they were done, then it would go to you and say, okay, the review is complete, and now you can issue the permit.
Okay.
So when you're ready to issue the permit, you can just pull it up and generate the permit document. So I'll click the permit number, and we'll wait for test. There it goes. Okay. So if I'm ready to issue it, I can just change the status to issued. That'll plug dates here. If your permits are good for a certain amount of time, you can default the date, the expiration date, or you can type it in. And then to print the permit, I'm just going to come up to the generate letter icon or generate document. And it's kind of like the email. They're just additional types of templates. So we'll click this, and then it's going to let us choose our template and generate the actual permit card, like if they have to post something out at the job site. Okay, so here's our documents. I'm going to just select the ROW permit, hit generate document. That grabs our template and pulls in all of our basic data. They have a logo here, but it's not loaded on the test system, so we are not seeing that. But I can go, I can just save it, and then they can go and get it on the portal as well. So you can either print it here if you wanted to, or they can go back on the portal, and if they go to the Documents tab, it'll be listed there, and they could print their own. And you can make that document look however you want. So that's how we issue the permit. And you can put conditions. We call them conditions. So for example, that permit, let me issue it even though there was a balance due. If you don't want to allow that to happen, you can set up what we call conditions that just check for certain things. So if the balance is due, show them a warning message and say, hey, there's money owed. Are you sure you want to issue it? You can also check like contractor licenses and things like that.
So does this include the inspections as well?
It does. So if I want to schedule an inspection here, I can just go into schedule inspection. And we can select, let's do a rebar inspection. Here's a condition, now that I mention it. So they're saying, hey, this permit owes some money. Are you sure you want to schedule the inspection? And then I have the option of saying, yeah, I still want to do it, or no, I'm not going to schedule it. So if I say yes, then we'll just schedule it. And then I can select a day. Let's say we're going to go out there today. And if you schedule times, you can do that. If you don't schedule times, you can just leave the default time. And then we'll save it, and that's going to show up on my calendar. They can also do the same thing on the portal. So if I'm on the portal, I can say, oh, I want to request an inspection, so the contractors can come in and basically do the same thing. I want a rebar inspection. I want it tomorrow. And you have different options for them. So you can show them, they can just pick AM, PM, or you can say let them pick a specific time, or you can just hide the desired time and they don't get any choice there. If you want to add notes here, you can. They can. And we'll click submit. And here they get the warning, oops, you can't, and it won't let them. So the warnings are, you get a choice, but if you configure this, then they can't schedule it if you say they're not allowed to. So then when I'm ready to do my inspection, I can pull it up. And you have a few options with your inspections. Some cities just come in and they just do a pass, fail, approved, not approved, and a date, and they're done. Some cities will have an inspection checklist. So if I click the book, and if they had an inspection checklist, it would kind of look like those review comments, but they would be inspection checklist-based items. So you could select things from here, or you can just write your own. Can't type at top. And so let's say, not approved, and then you just plug in the completion date, hit save. You could either email them an inspection report manually like we did with the plan reviews, or you can have that automatically be sent. So for inspectors, it's usually helpful to have it automatically be sent, because then you can be out in the field with an iPad, you just fill it out, you save that you're done, and it emails it to them.
Yeah, you barely use the phone.
What if you have, no, never mind, I'm not gonna say it. Never mind. So I have a question if we back up just a little bit. When you were doing the application, you were saying it gave you an option to actually do the application, and then it sends it to the next person in the approval path.
Right.
That we can set up.
Yes, you can configure that. So if I come into admin, I'll just show you,
So
and I go to the workflow route. Here's the default route. So it's just going to Public Works and Planning, or both Public Works. So if I said, okay, we need to send this to one more person, I can say, all right, we're going to send it to Fire, we're going to send them a plan review task, and we're going to assign it to Paul. And we want Paul to be assigned this when that one's done. And let's say he gets 7 days to do it. So if I hit save here. So now when we look at this, the first task is this one, and it's due upon route assignment. So as soon as the application gets created, it's going to get assigned to this person. And then this task is due upon completion of other activities. So if you click the ... it'll say, okay, this one's due when that one's done. And this last one is due when that one's done. So if I go back to my permit and add another task, let me just grab one. Let's grab this one. And I'll add the route, and we'll save it. That was the original one. So now we see it's got 3 tasks. So if it's like we're changing the overall how we want to route these, then we would go into admin and change the workflow route. If you had one, you're like, oh, I want Bob to look at this one because there's something special about it, you can pull up the route and then just add a task to this individual one, which won't put it on the overall, but it'll just add it to this particular file. So if I say, they want to do a plan review also, and I'm going to send it to Joe. So now I've got Fire, Planning, and Public Works. So typically the way we do it is we put everyone you think you might want to have on the review route, and if it's variable based on different situations and what you see, then when you add the route, you can uncheck, oh, I don't need Fire this time.
So what happens when you have your approval route set up and that person's not there, is on vacation or calls in sick? Does it stagnate the permit, or is there a workaround on it?
There's a workaround. So if someone's covering for me, I'm gone for a week, they're going to go into the department activities, and they can look at, oh, let me go see everything that's assigned to Spencer because he's gone. And then someone else can take Spencer's list and work those. If Spencer's going to be gone for 4 months or a long time, then we would change the route to have them go to someone else during that time so they didn't have to do that. You can also have...
It's just somebody calling sick.
Yeah, if it's someone just calling in sick, whoever's covering for them goes and looks at their tasks and takes over for that day. You can also use a metric. So metrics are kind of like little mini dashboard reports. So let's say I want the pending permit reviews. I want all of the pending ones. I want everybody's. So what this shows me is, oh, we have 125 permits under review, and I can see exactly which departments have them. So if I said, oh, well, what's taking the building department so long? I can click it and see there are 33 and drill down on it. So these kind of let you have just a quick glance at what's out there so that you can go, okay, let's see, what planning and zoning has and ask them to move some of those along. So it's kind of a good way to have, usually the supervisors will have this so that they can all kind of keep track of their own department and what's still outstanding. You can also, I didn't show you the map part. Let me pull up one of these permits. We'll grab this one. You can view the projects on a map and different layers on the map as well. You can also look at your inspections on a map too. So if I click the map marker on my list, it would show me on a map. But let's pull up this permit and we'll take a look at the map.
Yeah.
All right, so if I click the map icon, it'll pull it up in a map and I can see where it's at. And if you load different layers from your GIS system, you can see them. So if I do ward boundaries, that'll just show me the different wards that they have. City limits is probably, I don't know what city limits is, just a big square. So usually you see things like zoning and, I don't know, potholes, stuff like that. So you can load as many different layers as you want. You can also view these on a report. So if I said, you know what, I want to see all the right-of-way permits that we've issued in a certain date range, I can come in here and let's just leave this big date range in there and we'll run the report. And let's go zoom in on this so we can see it. So this can show you, you know, just graphically where are all the right-of-way things you've done in a certain date range. We have it broken down by subtype, but you could do it on pretty much anything. These are all custom reports that we set up for you. So you could make the colors different colors. You could, you know, have emergency ones to be red, you know, kind of whatever makes sense. And you could put these on the portal if you wanted to. So if you wanted to show, you know, the public where right-of-way changes are going on or street closures, they could look at a map of street closures. And you can drill down on those if you want to.
So how do you work the whole payment thing? Do you work with the finance department on that, with the city's finance department, or?
So we do, you would select a payment provider. We don't actually process the payments, but you would choose a payment provider like a PayPal or an Authorize.net or something like that. And then when the payment comes in, we send the payment information to the payment processor. They authorize the card and charge it. And then we log a record in Citizen Serve for that. If you do an integration with your financial system, then you can have those payments automatically sent to your finance system. If you don't do an integration, then you know you have to manually go type them in a second time. So it's best to do an integration so that you don't have to double enter that stuff.
I guess, so my question is, what if somebody, so this is great if they're doing it online, but what if they come up to the counter?
If they come up to the pound, you can add the payment for them. So if they bring you a check, you would just bring up that permit and hit add payment. Oh, they owe $50. Just plug in the payment. Let's say they've given us a check and save it. And that's going to mark that that permit's been paid. So you can still take over the counter. Do you guys take the checks now, or do you send them to finance?
We can take a check, but if they want to pay by credit card, they have to go to finance.
What most cities do is they put like a kiosk out in the front, and if someone comes in and they want to pay with a credit card, they just have them go to the portal right there in the front desk and pay and apply and all that stuff, just to kind of try to get rid of all that paper or eliminate some.
I wish it said an ATM.
Well, so right now with the way that we've got it set up, if somebody has a credit card, they have to put on their backpack and go for a very small hike to the front of City Hall, to finance, and then come back with their paid receipt.
With the receipt.
So paid, and it's really not
Convenient.
Yeah.
Plus, we have to print out an invoice for them to take over there, because they won't know what they're paying. Finance won't know what it's for.
Yeah, I would definitely look into setting up a computer on the front, you know, out somewhere in the public area, and just have them go online and pay.
They're just going to have to relinquish some of that control and allow us to do that, because, you know, we are smart, you know.
Finance likes to have those controls in place, you know.
And we'll be meeting with finance in a couple of weeks, so we'll make sure to bring up the kiosk and everything for planning and engineering as well. When we meet with finance, I'll pre-prep them for that.
All right.
So, this is good for, I know this is I mean, obviously, there's other items you can set this up for besides right-of-way permits. And the reason I'm asking is that we have a separate access database because we issue transportation permits for oversized loads that come through the city.
Okay.
So could we add that to this as well?
Definitely. You can add any type of a permit. If I look at what Clayton's got, you know, these are their valet permits. I don't even know what that is. I guess to set up a valet stand. So yeah, you can set up any type of permit. And once you select the permit type, there's some standard things that go along with it, like this section. But everything from here down is all custom. So again, we look at your paper applications and we set it up to starting, you know, to mirror that, and then we can tweak it from there.
That would be great, because right now it's a whole separate system, and now the payment vendor we were using is no longer certified, so we have to physically take down their credit card number and walk it over to finance for this permit.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great thing. So, okay, that's great. That's good. I think we should be able to integrate that into that as well.
So I have a question. So this is just a very basic right-of-way permit, which most of the permits that we're going to issue in engineering, we used to be called Public Works, it's just engineering now, is really going to involve right-of-way permits or what we call encroachment permits for utility work, curbs and gutters, driveways, that sort of thing. But when we're working with a much larger developer where there's like 1,000 homes going in and we've got track maps and parcel maps being tracked and all kinds of different traffic studies, hydrology studies, all this kind of stuff. What's happening currently right now is I have a paper copy inside of a form, inside of a file folder that has all the items listed. And as they turn them in, I check them off and say, yeah, they've finally done this one. And when they're all done, checked off, then I finally send an email to the building department saying it's okay to issue permits for the entire project.
Okay.
Is there something like that set up within what Missouri has that kind of does the same thing where everybody can look at one folder and say, oh, well, Rick's still got 10 outstanding items and so-and-so's got so many outstanding items and this is what's going on?
You could use the review comments. So you could say, okay, this has been resolved. I don't know if you'd use the word resolved, but received or complete or satisfied or whatever. So you could use this so that you plug in these comments and then everyone else can see them, but they can't change your comments. So you could kind of build that checklist. If it's like a standard, these are the 50 things we always need, then we just grab them all. If it's more, okay, for this job, I'm going to need these 5 things, and for this, I'm going to need those things. You could kind of build a checklist from that.
So can Rick build it per project? I mean, can he customize it? Because obviously every job's a little different, but he could build it for every large project that comes in.
Yeah, definitely. So you go into the comments, and here's the basic list. And if you want, you can say select all, and that adds them all to the list. And then you can say, okay, I don't want that one, and I don't want that one, and this one needs some extra work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's perfect. That answers my question. Because right now, if they have an issue with engineering and they're at the planning department, planning says, oh, you need to go talk to Rick in engineering. And then Lindsay's got to go find me, find the file. Hopefully I'm able to walk up to the counter and explain to them what I'm still missing. In this case, anybody can pull this up at any counter in any department and say, this is what Rick's missing, so you don't have to go bug him.
Right.
All right. And what Philippe's saying is not too far out from reality, because Like, I'm the only person that does private development in engineering. Philippe is the only person that does right-of-way in engineering. So if I'm gone, yeah, the world stops. If Philippe's gone, his world stops. And there isn't
Right.
anybody that can look up anything what's going on to tell the customer, oh, well, this is what's going on. Well, come back Monday when he's back from.
The customer can see those too. So if I come over here to the reviews, so you're going to have a review, and that wasn't a good one because there's only 2 little things, but all of those reviews are going to be here, and you can put the status on here too. So they can go online and see, oh, we're waiting for this, we're waiting for that.
Cool, that's what we need.
That's exactly what we need.
So hopefully they don't come into the office, they just look.
All right, that's cool. So this is still prototype type of thing? I mean, for us?
We haven't built ours on Citizen Server or anything. We actually haven't purchased it quite yet. We want to make sure we get at least a majority approval of it, so that's why we're doing the individual demos. But yes, once we go through, staff reports are due on the 20th, so if we get approval from everybody, we can move forward and
then at that point,
start the
we start
onboarding process.
building our.
Exactly. We hand them all the paper we have, everything that we have in Access, and things that we need converted to be digitally stored on their servers. We give them all of that, and they would start to build it and work with you guys internally here to get it all figured out and working for your guys' needs.
That's interesting. What's her name?
Julie.
Hey, Julie. A question for you. So, is there a way to print out a report, you know, at something that, because Kristen just mentioned the word staff report, which is the bane of our existence.
Yes.
So if we could somehow create a form that creates a staff report for us based on some of the stuff for the project, is that something that we could create?
Yeah, as long as we're putting the comments, you know, the information in the system, you could definitely create a report around it. So sometimes people will have the staff report is the comments. Sometimes it's more of a narrative. This is the status of the project and where it's at. But yeah, you could definitely just pull any of that information from all your active projects to put it into the staff report. If you sent me a copy of it, I could, you know, kind of tell you for sure, but we definitely create those.
Because sometimes, like, I've been asked to do a staff report for a project. I have no idea what it is. So I have to take a day and do research as opposed to just pulling in stuff off of database and then, you know, making it look pretty and sound good.
Right.
That would save a lot of time for everybody.
Yeah, we could definitely set that up.
Okay, so reporting options, reporting forms is an option as well with this?
It is. So there's the standard reports that you can run that are like, you know, maps and lists and charts and things like that. There's also form letters, so you can have templates essentially that merge data together. So there's lots of different options for that, and all of those are included in your standard support. So if you know, start using the system and then 6 months down the road you decide, hey, it'd be cool if we could set up something like this, we come in and do that for you. It doesn't cost anything else. It's just part of your support.
That's cool. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is there a way, if I wanted to, let's say if I wanted to search for a permit, but currently right now, most of them are tracked by APN.
You can search on lots of options. Quick search is kind of if you know what you're looking for. I know the address or the number. So if you don't know that, you can go into search for a file, and you can put lots of information. So you can say, all right, I know it's a right-of-way permit, so my permit number is going to be an ROW, and I know it's on, what was that street I used? Vaughn. Let's say that's all I know. I hit search. Oh, I must not have spelled that right. VONHOME. I don't know why I didn't find it. Anyways, you can, let's see if I've got one on, let's just do all right-of-ways. ROW. I'm probably going to get a ton. 200. Oh, there's no space. That's why I didn't find it. Let's go back. So there's 6 permits on that street. So it doesn't matter what the street number is, they all show up. You could look at them on a map. You can also search, let's say you don't even remember the street, but you know that it was Acme Construction who's doing the job. So I can do Acme, and then it'll find any ROW with an Acme. And if there's only one, it pulls it up. There's a list. You can put a list. So the search, you can search on any combination of these things. If you do know the parcel number, you can plug that in to take a look at it. Date ranges. This gives you a lot of options to try to find things. Just show me the open ones. Just show me the pending ones.
And Julie, if we added a special field to our forms, maybe it was, say, an APN or something like that, that would also come up here as being a searchable field as well, correct?
Right. So down here, custom search options. If you set up custom fields that are searchable, this is where they show up. So they have one board.
Okay, cool.
So the big thing, the number one problem, not a problem for you, Julie, it's a problem for us. But the number one thing that I see, building has a building plan check number. Planning has a case number. Engineering has an E number. They're all associated with the same damn address.
Actually, I have 5 different numbers.
And he has 5 different numbers.
Yep.
So what we're going to have to do internally here is come to a common ground that everything's going to be under an address.
Well, you can still have all your individual numbers. So if I pull up this address, I did a search for a property. The address is in the system one time in the parcel database. If I look at it, I can pull up that address and then see everything about it.
Look at the same property that everybody else is looking at?
Right. So if I pull up this parcel and I say, let me see all the permits on this parcel. Here we are. We have, I don't know what RO is. Oh, that looks like a rental occupancy maybe. This is apartment. We've got a right of way. We've got commercial occupancy. So you see everything from all the departments, and they can all, here's some signs. They all have their own number, but as long as you have access to view that information, you can see it here. And you could say.
And that's where I would have all my spec lists that we were talking about earlier.
So like if you said, okay, well, what's there's a pending right-of-way application. You can click that, and then you go see the checklist from there. You could drill down from that. You can see all the inspections on this address. So if you're like, oh, who else has been out there lately? You know, you can see every inspection that's ever happened. If anyone's taken any photos or done anything, you can see all of that. So here's your review comments right there that we emailed them. So this is kind of where you see everything that's happened on that address over time.
Okay, but so is there a way, because I mean, I think we really, to be honest with you, I think we should all have the same number as opposed to having different, because sometimes they'll come to our counter and they have a building permit number, which means nothing to us. Or they'll go to their counter and have our E number, which means nothing to them. So,
right.
So is there a way, because at the very beginning when you said, when the customer was putting in the information on the portal, you said, oh, it'll assign it a number of some sort.
Right.
So could we use that as the basis for everything having to do with that task? It
assigns it, so the parcel has a parcel number, which hopefully is unique, but not always.
No,
with the citizen, sometimes not. Citizen Serve assigns an internal property number, but no one ever really sees that. I mean, you could see it, but they wouldn't see it. The file number, that might be what you want to use, because that's kind of every project has a file number, and then the individual permits have permit numbers, so you might want to use a file number. But you could search, if you said, if you searched, let's say they came in and they told you this RO number, and so you said, all right, I don't know where this is, but they told me it's RO 18-123-284. Let's see if he has access. And so you pull it up, and you can see, oh, here's the address. And if you click it, you're going to see the RO permit, but you'll also be able to then get back to your application too. So as soon as you pull it up, we'll see a little icon that shows that there's other things going on the address, and we can click to see more info.
Okay.
So even if they have a number you don't know what it is, you'll still be able to use that to get to the property to find your stuff.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The window that we're looking at right now, it has all those tabs. It says properties, files, permits, licenses, inspections. Those are all customizable also?
These are all the standard things about a parcel. You can add custom ones at the end, but these are all the ones that come with the system. So the property is the main piece. You can see what files are on there, what permits, what licenses. So the tabs, you can add additional ones, but all the basics are always going to be there as well.
Okay, so if we wanted
I mean, if you weren't using licensing, then you wouldn't see the licenses tab. But if you use licensing for contractor registrations or anything like that, you'd see it.
And so, when let's say a project gets closed out, can you print out everything from here into a PDF file of some sort?
You can create a, I mean, yes and no. It gets difficult, like, if all your plans are separate files, you have to kind of go into a print all to print them all out. But you can create like a summary report that prints all the basics. And then, you know, use that. But if I go into, let's see, oh, I don't have access to print a summary report. But it pulls in like, oh, here's the basic permit information, here's the inspections, here's the activities. So you can do it. It just gets a little challenging with the documents because it could be a PDF, it could be a JPEG, it could be all kinds of things. So those you have to handle a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But I would also just kind of try to start thinking about not having to print all that stuff. You know, like, why do we have to print it? It's all online. You know, we don't need it in a folder.
Right, but I'm just thinking because
it's hard to, you know.
At some point when the project is done, inevitably we get a public records request from the city clerk saying, I want everything you have for this one address. And so just wondering if there's a way to like already, you know, print this out and put it in the city clerk's database so they already have it and not have to.
You could create a standard report that kind of pulls in information from different sources. It gets kind of sensitive in some areas. Let's say it was a bank and we don't really want to see the site plans of the bank, you know, because it's, I don't know, confidential or whatever. So sometimes some of that information, even though it's a public information request, you may not show. Someone might want to look at it and decide, well, what are we redacting or not showing?
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All good?
I had a question.
One more question, Julie.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie. I'm going to go, but Rick's still here.
All right. Thanks.
I was just thinking about it. Oh. So if we currently, right now, we've got thousands is going to be an understatement, thousands of files for individual right-of-way documents or right-of-way permits that were issued for an individual house. And currently right now, the only thing that's electronic is the permits that we've been doing in this archaic system that we have. Otherwise, they're hard copies of actual hard documents. If we went to something like this and we had somebody scan all of those documents in each one of those folders so that that information could be electronically kept by address, by ATN, does that overload this system? Does that overload this software? Does that? or is it just?
Oh, no, we do that all the time. So when you're scanning them, the only thing that's important to remember is that you have to have a common naming convention for the file so that when we import them, we know what to attach it to. So either, it has to have the parcel number or your permit number or some identifying data, and it has to be entered in a common manner so that they're all named with the same methodology so that we can grab them and pull them in.
Okay.
But we import lots of documents that's when it gets really helpful, is that you can go back and look at something from 4 or 5 years ago and see what did they do then.
Because theoretically, then the public records request would free up all of us from actually having to go and pull the physical file. They could actually do this themselves online.
If you allow that data to be public, yeah, definitely.
City clerk will be in this as well.
Yeah, because right now the public records request is crippling our just our physical presence at the counter, helping customers who are actually looking for our help and guidance to pull these files. And then when we need the files to actually do work, they're not here because they're in some attorney's office or they're in a box in the city clerk's office and we're not allowed to touch them until after the public records request is done. It's becoming
cumbersome.
It already is just a gigantic pain.
Well, and it seems like recently it's been businesses seeking information from municipalities to help their business. So I want to know all the building permits you issue to a property owner. That was one I saw recently, and I don't know what they're doing. Like they're contacting the property owners. I don't even know. But it's like all these crazy, almost abuse of public information. I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely a lot going on with that. If you have full access, they can come up here. I don't know what Clayton has, but they can come in and hit search and say, I want to see all the permits on that road. So here's all the permits. I want to look at this right-of-way permit. And so depending on the level of access you give them, Clayton's pretty open. They're showing everything. So you could just say, hey, go online and search, and you print it all out.
Yeah. Now, do you guys also provide the service of scanning all those documents?
We don't do that. A lot of people will get an intern, and then I don't know if they do it very often in California, but I know in Florida they have a lot of prisons that offer this. They'll sit there and scan documents. The prisoners scan these documents for cheap, and I don't know if that's something in California, but I've seen it in Florida a lot.
Huh.
Wow, I didn't think about that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it for me.
All right, Julie, thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for your time today, guys, and I guess we'll talk later this week or next week. I don't remember, but soon.
Very soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.